Hello everyone, it's Rob, aka Elbreen42. Welcome to my video review for the Saboteur. This is the 360 version of the game, but the other ones are probably very similar. This will be my first video review with the new format I've been working on. I hope you all enjoy it. The Saboteur. This game was suggested to me by my viewers, both to try out and to review. I must say, I definitely had a blast playing this game. Though this is a great game, everything it does has been done better by other games. But the aspects of those games are all rolled into one great game that everyone should experience, or at least due to its visuals and immersive gameplay. A kind of disclaimer before I start here. Though in my reviews I point out the negatives, I do so that people know what they're getting into. I love almost every game I review, and I don't want to come off as being biased or negative. Thanks for listening. Now, so we'll start with the story here. The story is, you're an Irishman called Sean Devlin in Paris, France. It's the 1940s and the Nazis have taken over. During the prologue of the game, it sets up the story quite nicely, telling the story of how Sean was a mechanic and a race car driver. After a fateful race in Germany, Sean's best friend is murdered when they are mistaken for British spies. Now he's out for revenge. I don't want to ruin the rest of the story of the game, so I'm only showing off the first third of the game. The first thing to mention is the striking visual style. In the occupied areas of the game, you see the world in black and white. You see red accents on the Nazis, blue accents on the resistance fighters, and yellow accents on the buildings. This is done to great effect, though after many hours it can start to bother your eyes a little bit. When you inspire people in a certain area, by completing missions, the color returns to the area. It's truly amazing seeing a transition between occupied and inspired areas. The controls are spot on, and I have absolutely no problems with them. Now the gameplay. Where to start? Let's start with the obvious first. This game will definitely remind people of Grand Theft Auto, Saints Row, and plenty other sandbox games. As a sandbox game, it does the job. There's main story missions and sub-missions, about 50 of them. So going through the story itself will take about 10 hours. It's not very long, though the missions are definitely great. Some of the stuff that you go through is downright cool and sometimes jaw-dropping. There's really no system like the respect system in other games, so as long as the mission becomes available, you can do it. The bulk of the gameplay is blowing stuff up, assassinating generals, and some other minor stuff for contraband. Contraband is this game's currency. Besides getting contraband, the only other reason for taking out targets is to lower the amount of Nazis in a certain area, making it easier to complete missions and escape alerts. Blowing stuff up is really fun, but after many hours blowing up hundreds of targets to get 100%, it starts to get a bit dry. Assassinations are really great, as are finding contraband crates. Then there's the stunt jumps. They're pretty useless. They're put in the stupidest places, and most cars don't even have enough speed to go much further than the end of the ramp. So instead you get an exaggerated animation of your car nosing straight down while there's an over-dramatic revving sound effect. The game could have done without these jumps. There's another thing to mention, the races. There's a total of 5 races in the game, and you can't redo them after you've completed them to get better times. The races are done very well, but it's really lame that you play a race car driver, but there's so little racing in the game that might as well not be in there. You can also climb landmarks and collect postcards. It's all great. The only thing that really could have been better is that it would have been nice to see the postcards or read about the landmarks. It would have helped with immersing yourself in the world, as unless you know Paris yourself, you don't really know what you're climbing or seeing. It looks cool, but there's no context to it. Seeing a great bird's eye view when you get to the top of a building is very awesome though. Now, collecting cars is very fun. There's plenty in the game, your standard cars, race cars, German vehicles, and military vehicles. The only gripe is that there's a point of the story where it's like a point of no return, where you can't use the headquarters or garages on one side of the map, so collecting cars is a very tedious task, sometimes taking about 15 to 20 minutes to collect a single car. It's best to collect as much as possible in the first half of the game. Upgrading your character in the game is done by an excellent perk system. You accomplish certain tasks like blowing up a certain amount of stuff, collecting stuff, killing Nazis a certain way and such. It's a great idea, and I was very impressed by it. One other thing this game is lacking is side activities. Besides taking out targets, collecting stuff, climbing landmarks, and doing missions, that's it to the game. What it does well, but there's just not much else to do. Also, going past the aforementioned point of no return really discourages you from doing stuff on the side, as the game keeps needlessly pushing you forward. Thankfully, after you beat the game, your headquarters and garages open up again. So that's good. More about the gameplay. Sean can climb just about any building, slide along zip lines, wear Nazi uniforms, stealth kill and such. Much like games like Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell, and Metal Gear Solid. The thing is, those aspects of the game are fully realized and executed properly in other games, but not so much in this one. Also, the Nazi shooting gameplay, turning off switch boxes and escaping detection, feels a lot like Medal of Honor and Return to Castle Wolfenstein. It really breathes life into a typical sandbox game. Also of note is that the first half of the game really draws you into the story. The final half really goes so fast and so much happens that it seems very anticlimactic. I wasn't very happy with the ending, but the journey along the way was well worth it. The last thing to mention is that every new copy of the game comes with the Midnight Club downloadable content. It adds nudity, making the game feel more authentic. You can turn it off if it offends you though. As well, it unlocks a bonus area with a mini game where you can unlock a car. As well, you get some girls to dance for you, which I found kind of lame. And I was more impressed with the singing girl in the intro of the game. It was just done much better. There's also, if you pre-ordered the game, or if you bought it off of eBay, like me, a downloadable content for a knife stealth kill, which is very satisfying and very bloody. Alright, so I said I wanted to mention the impact of games that they have in the industry and society. Unfortunately, this game doesn't have much of an impact. There was much hype leading up to the game. After its release, it kind of stayed under the radar. I can understand why, but it's really sad when such an inspiring game goes unnoticed. So to sum up the review, the game, while not comparing as well to many similar games it takes its aspects from, is still very enjoyable. The positive points are really fun gameplay, like blowing stuff up, and the downright cool visual style. Negatives are the second half of the story, and not being able to replay races, throwaway stunt jumps, and the lack of activities. All in all, I feel that people should check the Saboteur out. It's truly a unique experience. Even though it doesn't technically shine in any aspects besides visually, there's nothing really wrong with it. It's a great game to delve into. I recommend playing through this game in its entirety in short spurts instead of a long session. In conclusion, I give this game an 80% rating. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more videos.